Let's talk about the US immigration system, a maze of agencies that confuses almost everyone. If you've ever tried to navigate it, you know it can feel like you're lost in a labyrinth, with every turn leading to more paperwork, more waiting, and more uncertainty. Two of the biggest players in this complicated system, USCIS and ICE. Their names might sound familiar, but what they actually do and how they interact can be a mystery to most people. USCIS, or US Citizenship and Immigration Services, is supposed to help people get green cards, citizenship, and work permits, the friendly side of the system. They're the ones you go to when you want to build a new life, reunite with family, or finally become a US citizen after years of waiting. ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, is the enforcer, tracking down and deporting people without legal status. They're the ones with badges and handcuffs, whose job is to find and remove those who don't have the right paperwork. One agency builds families up, helping them stay together and thrive. The other can tear them apart in an instant, sometimes with just a knock at the door. For years, these agencies stayed in their own lanes, each focused on their separate missions. There was a clear line between helping and enforcing. But now, things are changing. They're teaming up, sharing information in ways that put immigrants at risk, blurring the line between support and enforcement. The wall that once separated them is now more like a thin curtain, easy to see through and even easier to cross. People who thought they were safe are suddenly caught in the middle, unsure who to trust. This isn't just a bureaucratic tweak, it's a major shift that's made the process terrifying for millions. The fear is real, and it's growing. To follow the law, you have to hand over your life story to USCIS, every detail, every document, every hope and fear. But now, that same information can be used by ICE to target you or your family. What you shared in confidence can suddenly become evidence against you. It's like going to the doctor for help and having your checkup results sent straight to the police, turning a place of trust into a source of fear. This betrayal of trust has real, painful consequences for families just trying to do the right thing. It's not just paperwork, it's people's lives, hopes, and futures hanging in the balance. To understand why this issue is so important, let's take a step back and see how things used to work for immigrants in America. For decades, the process of building a life here was shaped by a crucial principle, one that protected families and encouraged them to participate in society. There was a clear firewall between the agencies that provided public benefits and those that enforced immigration law. This separation wasn't just a technicality, it was a deliberate policy choice. The idea was simple. You could apply for a green card, a driver's license, or other essential services without worrying that your personal information would be shared with immigration enforcement, like ICE. This gave people the confidence to come forward and try to regularize their status. This system built trust between immigrant communities and local authorities. People were more likely to report crimes, seek medical care, or ask for help when they needed it, making neighborhoods safer for everyone. USCIS, the agency handling immigration applications, was seen as a neutral administrator. It wasn't a direct pipeline to deportation, but rather a place where people could seek a fair review of their cases. If your application was denied, it was certainly disappointing, but it didn't automatically mean you'd be targeted for removal. There was still hope, and often, other options to try. This separation encouraged people to come forward, consult with attorneys, and try to fix their status, knowing they wouldn't be punished just for asking. It allowed USCIS to focus on processing applications fairly and efficiently, without the pressure of enforcement looming over every decision. For years, immigrants and their lawyers trusted this process. It was a system built on the idea that seeking legal status shouldn't be a trap. A denial was a setback, a moment of disappointment, but it wasn't the end of the road or a disaster that would tear families apart. But now, that trust has eroded. Millions of people live in constant anxiety, unsure if seeking help will put them at risk. The rules of the game have changed, and not for the better. What was once a process of hope and opportunity now feels like a gamble with everything on the line. So, what changed? The firewall became optional. USCIS now refers denied cases to ICE, turning a path to legal status into a pipeline for deportation. When you apply, you hand over every detail of your life, now open to ICE. A green card application can double as a map for an ICE raid. ICE agents have even shown up at USCIS offices, arresting people at their own interviews. People trying to comply with the law are now walking into traps. Every form, every interview, now carries the risk of deportation. Many are too scared to apply for relief they might qualify for. The process is no longer about eligibility, it's about survival. People are forced to choose between hiding and risking everything. This is the direct result of these agencies working hand in glove. Let's make this real with Maria's story. A story that echoes the experiences of so many immigrants hoping for a better life. Maria came to the US as a teenager, full of hope, but overstayed her visa. For years, she lived quietly, working hard, blending into her community, and dreaming of a day when she could finally belong. Eventually, Maria fell in love and married a US citizen. For the first time, she saw a real path to legal status, a chance to step out of the shadows and build a future with her husband. Together, they gathered documents, rehearsed questions, and prepared for their green card interview, feeling both nervous and hopeful for a new beginning. But just before the interview could even begin, ICE officers entered the waiting room and arrested Maria on the spot, shattering their hopes in an instant. It turned out Maria had an old removal order she never even knew existed, something buried in her past that now threatened her future. In the past, applying for a green card might have helped resolve her status, giving her a chance to stay and contribute openly. But now, her application triggered a flag in the system. ICE used her interview as a trap, turning her hope into a nightmare. Instead of starting a new life, Maria was taken away to detention. Her husband was left behind, devastated, forced to fight for her release alone. The interview they prepared for never even happened. Sadly, Maria's story isn't unique. Countless families have been caught in this cruel trap, their dreams shattered in the very place they sought help. People who try to play by the rules, who come forward in good faith, are being arrested at the one place they should feel safe, the immigration office. The system's promise of fairness and opportunity has become a cruel joke for many, leaving families feeling betrayed and hopeless. The punchline: families are torn apart, left to wonder if they'll ever be whole again. Now meet Carlos, a DACA recipient. DACA let him live and work in the US without fear if he gave the government all his info. He married a US citizen and applied for a green card following every rule. But now, all the info he gave for DACA is accessible to ICE. If his application is denied, even for a technicality, he could be referred for deportation. The promise that his info would be protected, gone. Carlos and his wife live in fear, waiting for a decision that could upend their lives. Programs like DACA, meant to protect, now create a record that can be used against you. The impact goes beyond those arrested. It spreads fear through entire communities. Stories like Maria's warn everyone. Interacting with the system is dangerous. Families with mixed status live in constant anxiety. Kids worry that a parent's attempt to get legal status could lead to deportation. This fear damages mental health, school performance, and community trust. People avoid reporting crimes, seeking medical care, or enrolling in programs. The result? A two-tiered society, with one group living in constant fear. The economic impact is real. Immigrants are less likely to invest or start businesses. A policy meant to enforce the law ends up hurting communities socially and economically. The numbers tell the story too. Processing times for immigration applications have exploded. What took months now takes years. Denial rates are up, and a denial can now mean a fast track to deportation. More people are being arrested at or near USCIS offices, people who came forward voluntarily. The system has shifted from helping people integrate to finding people to deport. It's become slower, harsher, and more likely to separate families. The process is now a high-stakes gamble, not a fair review. The system is failing immigrants and the country's ideals. So what can we do? First, re-establish the firewall between USCIS and ICE. Make it law that benefit applications aren't shared with enforcement. The executive branch could issue new guidance, or Congress could pass legislation to keep these agencies separate. USCIS should process benefits, not set traps. We also need transparency. How many people are being arrested at interviews? How many denials lead to deportation? The government should release this data publicly. Oversight is key to accountability. Finally, expand access to legal help. Immigrants aren't guaranteed lawyers, even when the stakes are life-changing. More legal aid would help people avoid falling into traps. These steps could make a real difference. Where does this leave us? With an immigration system at war with itself, one agency offers a ladder, the other saws off the rungs. The collaboration between USCIS and ICE has turned a difficult process into a minefield. It punishes people for following the law and destroys trust. This isn't just a bureaucratic failure, it's a moral one. Immigration policy reflects our values. We should want a system that's fair, humane, and predictable. The good news: policies can change. By demanding transparency, restoring the firewall, and expanding legal help, we can rebuild trust. We can create a system that builds bridges, not burns them. It won't be easy, but it's worth fighting for, because how we treat immigrants says everything about who we are as a country.